So yeah, we're going to talk about AI and construction. Um, that's a pretty broad topic, and I think we've quite a lot of numbers in here today, and there'll be different people looking different aspects of information. But because it is such a broad topic, there's certain aspects we will be um, pushing across quite high level on. The main aspect that we're going to talk about today is the practical implementations of AI in construction. Okay, so I suppose as an agenda, we get Brendan to discuss just what is AI. We will look at some AI use cases at I suppose, a higher cost implementation level. Then we'll move on to practical applications that we see in the industry and construction in particular. We see it day in, day out when we're out with clients, problems they face, and some solutions that we've implemented, and some suggestions that we can give. Okay, that'll hopefully be 40 minutes or so. And from there, we'll hopefully give you a couple of questions that we can answer, and hopefully we can give you the answers that you need. Okay. So I suppose here are we, Concara Digital Transformation, based in Mahara, County Derry. So we're a digital transformation company as opposed to a software development company. That might sound quite nuanced, but I suppose we see ourselves as a partner alongside companies, and that can be companies from all shapes and sizes, from your small firms to your major players in industry that we work with in locally, Republic of Ireland and the UK. Of companies we deal with, some of them are working still with pen and paper and trying to start that journey of digital, while other companies might be in spreadsheets, partly digital, while other companies we're working with have 3 or 4 software applications and at that one time, but they might be just working in silos. So our job is to bring that all together, try to connect the dots, and to try to have a system that actually works for the business. So that's what we're all about. And that's what we think digital transformation should be about: having a system that works for you as your company, not you working for that software system. Okay. I suppose what we think sets us apart is our industry experience in the construction, alongside our in-house 5 developers, where we don't just start by building an app. We try to understand the process, we map out the process and how that actually works, and then we start to look at the software development aspect. Okay. So we move on to Brendan. He can just discuss at a high level what is AI.
Yeah, so probably contrary to the common knowledge, AI is not just ChatGPT. There's a lot more aspects to it. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. It falls into everything in terms of analysis, video, building, robotics. There's loads of things out there extracting information from drawings, extracting will that be sizes, purchase order numbers, that kind of thing, using optical character recognition, predictive text, voice to text in terms of translations. You can use it for an analytical purposes. There's loads of things out there to make things safer, smarter, and maybe more efficient in terms of processes. But probably the biggest thing to note, although there's good things in cost, there's good things in productivity, safety control, and all those kind of things. There's a lot of things that are also difficult around it, including security. So your third party sharing, who gets access to it. Um, do you want to use a public chatbot for private health concerns, things like that? So there's positives and negatives to it, and it's about how you manage it and control it. Things out there like language models and things like that for translation are unbelievable, and I'm sure you've all utilized some of it. But the big thing about it is you could use them foolishly in many ways as well. So in terms of what's out there, the scale of the organization level at the moment has changed vastly. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, so listen, we've got 200, near 200 people on the call. So we've all probably different shapes and sizes of construction companies on there. I suppose you're wondering, where are you at in terms of the industry? So here's the RICS survey that was carried out just this year and just recently released. That's probably good news for some of you guys that are a wee bit nervous that you're behind the eight ball. You're not. But 45% of the companies haven't tried AI yet. They might be out on site, they might be using ChatGPT personally, what have you, but they're not using it as a company initiative. About a third, 34%, are trying pilot use cases, and that would be quite similar to what would be in our client base as well. Well, there's some guys that are trying to do widespread, but I suppose it's at a few at this stage. What we're seeing them using it in is probably in design and planning. So a lot of companies are looking into design and planning, which is very topical. Project management, how to be more efficient in your project management. Quality, health and safety, your defect tagging, health and safety concerns, and also commercial control are the big ticket items that people are looking into at the minute. Okay. Some barriers that came up in the survey, which is exactly what we are probably going to be discussing. Poor data quality, companies working in silos, in particular departments working in silos, a lack of digital skills, which is particularly pertinent in the construction industry and aging workforce, an unclear return of investment, and concerns about disruption. So that's a massive one. You could put a big hole in AA cost wise if you don't have this planned out. And there is a lot of uncertainty. Where do you start? Where does this end? What does this actually look like cost wise? Okay. So go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, so what are maybe more practical use cases out there? What's available and what's kind of up and coming? So probably one of the cooler things out there would be the robotics, 3D printing of construction. So um, highly efficient at doing repetitive tasks such as bricklaying, things like that. The 3D printing, it can build models in so many different fashions that really speed up the build case. There's a site in Dublin there that use cases all these kind of elements, but I suppose the biggest challenge that comes with the likes of these is the cost of the equipment. How efficient is it in terms of a multi-factor site where there could be a lot of different industries on at the one time? You'd have to segregate areas and the maintenance of all those things. So probably big ticket items in certain scenarios, but they do come with a few downsides. In terms of maybe more affordable things at the moment, you could use wearable technologies, maybe AI-powered monitoring in terms of static sites where there's a large area. So, take for example, monitoring people in an area such as a warehouse in terms of who's the workers, is it a forklift, all those kind of things. Wearable technologies, something similar, probably more useful for on-site circumstances where you want to do a site visit or do a digital site diary or record hazards. All very useful, but probably when it comes with its negatives to your staff around privacy, feeling they're watched and all those kind of things. Um, but to what we think would be the two most common that are people going after is probably the BIM modeling design and maybe drone surveying. So, albeit drone surveying is quite similar to wearable technologies, it's just the aerial footage is probably more encapsulating to large sites, say commercial housing and things like that. The only risk with that is again seeing your neighbours. You could pick up their problems as well. It's probably you have enough of your own. So BIM seems to be quite a decent one now for improving quality of time. There's a lot of things you can do, analyze environmental factors and drawings. You can make quick build models from text, things like that. But again, a lot of these things at the current time are quite cost heavy, which is not suitable for everyone. But that is reducing with time at the minute, and it's reducing fast. So probably in the not so distant future, people will start relying on these things for what they need to do day to day.
Yeah. So I suppose for us, listen, we're a digital transformation company, so we come from a certain perspective. There might be software companies on this call that sell these products, and that's all well and good. But for us, what we think, what we see out in the construction industry for now is we think forget the big transfers and try to look at the more practical situations where you're trying to fix the system. So if you look at the Mbappe theory, which we've used in the past, Even the best performers, like Mbappe, only thrive when the system works around them. So you take Mbappe, he's probably the best player in the world. But he's seen there a couple of days ago against Liverpool. And even in the past, where Real Madrid won the Champions League 2 years ago, now he's not performing and Real Madrid's not performing. That's not because he's lost any ability. It's just it's not clicking. The system's not clicking. For a system to work, you need the people, the technology, and the process or the tactics of a sports analogy. Okay. And we do feel, and we feel very strongly, this the same principle applies to technology and in particular AI. Okay. You get the best tools in the world, but if the system is weak, the impact's going to be negligible. Okay. So you think of them use cases that Brendan talked about, okay, a robotic bricklayer or your safety cameras, they're only going to be as good as the people and the processes around them. And if the people and processes aren't good, you're going to have a limited impact. You got a robotic bricklayer right on site, but if you've got a bad procurement process and you're not getting the bricks there in time, if you've got design that keeps changing, if you've got you can't get the mechanical and electrical workers in straight after, what benefit are you going to get? The same way safety cameras, guys. You get a safety camera to watch all the hazards you want, but if you've got a poor safety culture or you're not putting the resources or time or energy into actually improving that, what improvement are you going to get on your bang for your buck? Okay. So what we are focusing on here today is problems that we see, practical problems we see out in the industry that you guys hopefully see as well. We're going to try and give you some solutions that we have implemented and we think would be useful for companies. Okay. So big problem, guys, and I know CF have raised this a lot and working with the industry to try and alleviate this. There's a problem with aging workforce. So in the construction industry in particular, with an aging workforce, with a aging workforce that are leaving and walking out the door, and they're taking that knowledge away with them. Okay. With a skill shortage, a lack of apprentices coming in, a lack of quantity surveyors, and you have a generation now which is different from 10, 20 years ago, where you had people that were lifers that stay and work same company for 20 years. The problem now, you have a quantity surveyor comes on, you upskill them, you get a buddy system, train them up. That same person could leave in 6 months, okay, taking up valuable resources. And with a massive increase in compliance, whether that's health and safety, ESG, commercial, public procurement compliance. So there's a massive impact in this here. So all in all, we're facing a shrinking pool of experience, a rising cost to replace it, and every time someone leaves, the admin is just piling up. Okay. The next slide. So the solution that we see is automate the routine and give time back to the people. Okay. So across every department, there's hundreds of small, repetitive manual tasks that are taking a lot of time and slowing people down. That might be filling out your forms, chasing approvals, sending emails, scanning documents, rechecking documents, wherever. Okay. So you can think use cases from onboarding, health and safety compliance, checking up early warnings, pre-qualification questionnaires, you name it. What we would, I suppose, say to the companies listening here is sit down, look at all your departments, speak to your departmental managers, speak to the people doing the work, and identify where this bottleneck of work and repetitive admin tasks are. So the goal for us and the goal for AI, and it does cause a lot of worry and angst, is that it's going to replace people. We don't see that. We see it's not as replacing people, but it's removing the noise so that people can focus on higher end work. So you look at health and safety manager, now guys, some of them, especially down in the Republic of Ireland, they're getting salaries up on above 50,000 a year. Okay. And if you're using that salary to do repetitive admin work, it's not the best use of that resource, okay, or person. So if you look at the example we've got here, a RAMS approval process, having worked in that sector in the past, I know it's massively time consuming. How it works in theory is you're getting a call on a Friday evening, the job starting on Monday, the contracts manager saying, listen, I should have rang you before this, but I'm going to get a RAM sent across to you. You're getting these RAMs, You get them, they're terrible. You're spending 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour writing out notes, telling that guy what they need to improve. He's sending back and it goes so on and so on, where you could spend roughly an hour, 2 hours every Rams is getting approved, guys. Okay. And we're going to show how we can change that. So if you want to just click on the video.
Acme bricklayers require RAMs by this Friday. Please email request.
Acme bricklayers, RAMs are ready for my approval.
Yeah. So what we're saying here, guys, is we're not trying to replace the health and safety manager. We're trying to keep them in, but you're using less time. So you can see here an AI chat agent is looking through questions that could be pre-prompted by a health and safety person for RAMs. So are RAMs specific to the work? Is there safe work procedures and permits in place? What we've done here in the background, if we have created prompts to tell the AI agent what they should be looking for once they get a RAMs PDF. The AI agent is checking the document and identifying is these certain criteria set in place. Okay, we're looking now at an example of a bad RAMS, doesn't have enough information. Okay, so you can see the AI agent has gone through and said, no, RAMs aren't specific. Safe work procedures are not there, hasn't listed training, what have you. And this is just one small example, guys, of how you could save time. Instead of that health and safety manager reviewing 10 RAMs and 8 of them not up to standard, you have an AI agent that's doing the donkey work in the background. And once the RAM comes in, if it's not good enough, the AI agent, if I could say that word, which is probably important, sends that back and says, this is not good enough. You need to do the following things. So between the contractor and the agent, that's doing the work. And once it's ready up to a certain standard, the health and safety manager then can get involved in the RAMs and they can spend their valuable time actually looking at the risks, going out onto site, seeing are we missing something as a company? How can we make this job safer? Okay. You want to go ahead?
So AI hallucinations then probably is a bigger real world problem as you're going to have. I think this graphic here is quite applicable in terms of some of the responses you might have had back from previous AIs, and it kind of summarizes where it can lead you down the garden path. Um, you know, AI is basically always dependent on what humans give it or what information it's given. Um, what this can cause for you is unreliable confidence, maybe. If you ask questions, it's going to give you its best answer that it has at its disposal. So you have to be very careful on how you populate the information. A big example would be looking to know the depth of a dig. What quality of concrete should you pour for a certain type of building? It might give you an answer based on the 2018 specification that it has, but you need the 2025 specification. And things like that can cause you millions and millions of pounds across a project, a lot of errors, a lot of emails, and a lot of problems that you don't need. So you have to be very careful on how you utilize information with AI. But I think the human in the loop in all this can be very important in that if you control the input, then you can control the output. So in the background of how this would work, as an example, you could connect your Google Drives. Um, when documents are created or when a document is updated, so you can always keep your version history. We'll consume the document, it'll go into a vector storage, and from there you can then utilize that to get internal information as accurately as possible and ensuring that you're always getting the right information. So it uses retrieval augmented generation to do this. Models are checked, standards are held, and the human in the loop approach means that you have control of all the right information. So fixing hallucinations is a very simple thing, provided you set up the controls to do so. And I think that's a very important step in this to make AI trusted within your company. So here's a short video of how that would work in terms of if data has been updated, what this looks like for your company as an end product.
Strap the floor to the wall at every level.
Yes, the wall should be strapped to the floors above ground level.
at intervals not exceeding 2 meters.
So when you ask a question, what happens in the background? You'll see we've already uploaded our information, but then when you ask in the chat, you can see how the AI agent's working, running through the information that you've provided and giving you back accurate responses. Now, there's loads of different tools out there. We've used Gemini in this case. There's Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok. There's loads of different variations out there. It's just a matter of how we control that to best suit the scenario of the company.
Yeah. Next problem, guys, that we see is, yeah, crap in, crap out. It's the age-old adage, and it's going to get bigger, this problem, okay? In the past, if you looked at documentation out on site, a lot of it was, I suppose, pick and flicks. It was done in paperwork, and that paperwork was going into a file and probably wasn't getting looked at again. Now, with a lot of companies digitizing, they're getting a lot more paperwork, and that paperwork is actually getting put into real life. The problem, once you start adding AI to this, you're going to get drowned in noise, and you might get drowned in noise that's not actually applicable. So I know there's a lot of directors and contracts managers on the call. I would say at this stage, they're getting drowned in emails, getting drowned in notifications, getting drowned in requests of information to complete. And it's very easy to miss the important things because there's so much noise in the background. So I suppose we see solution for this is good data, okay? So the problem isn't going to be a lack of data, guys. Moving forward, you're going to get plenty of data, especially as you digitize. It's trying to make sure that you have good data. If you look at the most sites are reporting tick and flick, what we would see, especially in the past, okay? But you're trying to get insights that's actually real and giving you proper insights. To fix that and to try and get good data, we need to remove the barriers. So you have to think of the people actually out on site, how they're actually recording information. To get good data in, you have to remove the barriers and what we talk about, removing the sludge, okay, to make it easier for them to actually capture good data. And a massive key to this, as we see, is speech to text. We use this for a lot of our clients, and we get nothing but good feedback on that, especially in construction industry, guys. You have people that have dyslexia, you have people with poor spelling, poor reading, what have you, and they might be a wee bit embarrassed to do the speech to text at the start, but once you get into it, you're getting really, really fantastic insights. And from there, we'll show this video here of actually from that insight, how you can get actionable information to cut out the noise, okay?
Monday, 30th November. Weather is good. The scaffold work is progressing well. Halco bricklayers are behind schedule and only have 5 workers here when there should be 7. Give me a weekly report on all sites. Focus on what's progressing, what's holding things up, and what are my major risks.
So you see there, guys, the operations director was asking for that weekly report. And because we've got really good insight and actionable information, he's able to request that information and he's able to get a weekly report. And you can see here in that weekly report, that's saying, for talk's sake, that the Halco bricklayers has only got 5 operators with a shoot of 7. So that's giving that weekly insight at the end of the week, which is a really useful thing to say what I need to be focusing on this week as a contracts director, contracts manager, what have you. Here's another example, guys, of breaking down barriers. This is a quantity surveyor going through his chat agent and saying, I have an invoice here at the end of the month for Halco bricklayers. I just want to double check that they have 7 bricklayers on site. And that chat agent, because all the information is populating into the one place, is able to decipher a site there and say, no, these guys only have 5. You probably need to check that invoice. Okay, these are just some use case examples of what you can do with good data. But the really important thing is, how are you going to get good data? You guys know your guys out on site better than us, but you need to be getting out there. You need to chat to them. And a big focus for any digital solution you're doing is, how can we make sure these guys are actually filling in things and giving us good information, not just that tick and flick. Okay.
So probably data silos will be the biggest thing that we would see across every company that we're dealing with, whether it's construction, housing, manufacturing, everyone has their own systems. They're working in a department and use software that suits them. There's loads of brilliant things out there, and probably AI in smaller departments that people are trying to utilize at the minute, but information gets lost, handovers, emails, delays in information, someone copying from another spreadsheet into another. Um, it's very limited. As we said there earlier around the site diary, we're losing things because it's not shared correctly, and then you can't utilize the information that you have. So the problem with that is it becomes very departmental, and the longer that goes on, the longer it happens and the worse it becomes. And then the data management after that becomes almost impossible to manage. So here would be an example of how that would be perceived in the real life.
Are we on target with the budget?
Yeah. Oh, yes. The spreadsheets are looking good.
I don't care what those charts say. I have major quality issues which will cost a fortune. They can bury their head in the sand if they like.
Yeah. Probably in real life, there'd probably be a few more F-bombs or something like that, I would say. But yeah, this is a major issue, guys. And probably, I'm going to give you the bad news. This is probably the most important slide, but it's probably the least glamorous slide of everything in terms of AI. But we can't stress how critical this would be for your business to work this out. It's a bit like you wouldn't build a house without foundation, that old cliche. The same applies to the system, guys. We need to do the unhidden work first, okay? So the fix we see is not the shiny new systems. It's trying to understand what you already have. For you to do this, and we'll give you a couple of small examples. You need to map out your entire process from start to finish. You need to identify all the touch points, identify your different departments, what data you're getting in, where that data should flow, and who's responsible for these different areas of data. Okay. Once that's clear, and once you understand your process, then you need to move forward about how to automate that process. Okay. So if you look at the next example, this is a very high level example, guys, of what a process map looks like. And this sort of encapsulates the commercial process from start to finish. So that's looking at measuring through to estimating into live jobs if the job is won, and then finishing off on cloud finance system. Okay, we're also tied in supplier management. It's a very simplified version of a process map. In reality, you have a lot of other connecting parts where you're trying to connect your operations, your project planning, safety, procurement, what have you. But this is where you need to start off, guys. And you need to get your different departments in place. You need to get the key people that understand the processes and how things work, how information moves across, if you want to get into actual AI and see the proper benefit in your system. So an example here we're using is when measuring a job is measured. That might be an external party or it might be your in-house people. An API connection is then talking to your internal system. That's giving you your measure of work. You would have a cost catalog, all your products and materials, where you're given a live cost update and estimate of your materials. Okay, where you're getting that information from, you're getting that from two places. As you can see, it's from the arrows. You might be getting that from your suppliers. So your suppliers are getting an automated email to give quotes, and the system's identifying that and using the AI agent to identify the most live update quotes for, say, your windows or your plywood, what have you. You're also at the back end of that system in your cloud finance, whether that's your Sage or your Xero or your QuickBooks. Once you're getting your invoices and your purchase orders, that's able to tie back and push back into your estimating system and say, okay, the plywood was estimated at this price, but in reality, this is now the current price. So when you're doing your next project, you're getting live data on your actual costs. Okay, that all sounds very good, but you need to map out your different stages. How does your procurement look? How does your estimating look? What have you? Okay.
So here's a very simple example in terms of how you can encapsulate integration of data extraction through OCR, automated emails, categorization, and reconciliation using an AI flow and a few of those different parts. So you're looking at procurement, raising a PO, a delivery has been received out in the yard. He'll maybe take a picture of that delivery docket rather than handing paper about and spill tea on it or spill coffee on it and things like that, and comes back almost hard to decipher for the girls in the office or things like that. Take a picture of it, let AI run OCR recognition, then let the AI in the background reconcile that to any invoices, to any purchase orders, and tie everything together so that reporting becomes a lot more instant. And then that closes the loop really, really quickly. So here's an example of how that would work.
Based on my revised programme, what materials need ordered this week?
Based on the programme, the windows need ordered by Friday.
Let me scan that window delivery, please. Thanks.
So once you've scanned at this point, it'll go into the system. You can see when the AI is set up to prompt correctly, it'll check for, does the delivery have a purchase order number? Is the project named? Is the company named? It'll then fetch out what quantities have then been delivered in terms of what is expected. Then that delivery or that invoice gets linked straight back into your accounts. So here's an example of maybe a more administrative task. You've received 10 emails. We can link all emails to take anything with an invoice related item, pop it into the database, and let AI run itself and do all the tagging for you. So if you think about the time saved administratively from receiving emails, opening them up, assessing what client it is, maybe upload it into your accounts package, keep a spreadsheet going of who has or hasn't sent their information, this would save a whole lot of time. It'll handle all the manual for you. So think of the hours every week, every month, every year, held in the whole thing. So big part of that is how do you handle the information? You probably should be doing a lot less handling the information. Let AI do that, and then you revise the analytics of it behind the scenes to say, where are we? Rather than going and finding out the manual errors.
Yeah. Who's to conclude on the AA part? After this call, where do you start? There's I would say there's 1,000 use cases in the industry, and each department will have their own use cases. Some people saying, I want to automate my process for onboarding. I want to manage how I'm doing early warnings. I want to manage my procurement. I want to do health and safety this way. Everyone will have their own ideas of how things can be done. My suggestion is to start with your biggest problem. Okay, everything comes down to money at the end of the day. So map out what is costing the most time and where can you save that time. And then from there, try to identify what is the actual process that you're actually doing. And a big thing which we identify when we're doing our process mapping, people are very much stuck in the past if this is how we did it. But you need to factor in, guys, you're moving into a new digital age just because that's the way you used to do it. How should we do it now using all the tools that we have in place and the people that we have and the processes? So map out your optimized process, involve everyone in the company. There's no point the contracts manager and the managing director having an idea of how things should be done and not speaking to the guys on the tools that actually are doing the work. Bring them guys in, involve them, have them as co-designers of the process so that when you're rolling this out, when you're rolling out your digital application or your AI application, they feel that they're part of it. They're the ones selling the process, guys. I can't stress that enough. You need to have the guys that are doing the work as the co-designers. Okay. We would suggest to prioritize automations and integrations first because you want to make sure the process is right. You want to make sure it's going to go right because automation and AI will just make things run faster. And if the process that you've mapped out isn't right, you're going to have a bad process running at hyperspeed, which is going to cause you big problems. Once you're happy with the process, then start to bring in your AI tools. I'm sure there might be some questions on the different AI tools you could use. Okay. Important thing in all of this is to keep human in the loop. AI has gremlins, as Brendan talked about. It's got hallucinations, but it also shouldn't be used to make your decisions. It should be used to inform you of a decision. It's a bit like your monthly contracts managers meeting. Okay, you have your operations director sitting on the board, and your different contracts managers giving the problems and the challenges. That operations director is the same thing. He's listening to that information and he's making that decision, guys. But that should be the same across every department you're using and every application of AI where you keep that human in that loop. We would say when you are starting, scale gradually and then think of your system, the whole process, then you can start focus on your tasks. Okay. Finally, quickly, just guys ourselves and solutions we offer. We do process mapping, automations and system integration, implementation, full software build, and we do help with some grant support and digital funding, which is particularly useful, especially with these type of AI use cases where return on investment can be unclear to start. Okay, so guys, that's us on our presentation. I know we've probably went through that quite fast. It's just there's a lot of use cases you could go through, and if you have any questions, guys, please let us know. Okay.
Thanks, Declan. Thanks, Graham. Very, very useful indeed. Fascinating to see the real world examples there you've gone through. And I suppose, as you said, we're kind of just at the start of this as well, which is an interesting point. It's developing very, very quickly. I'm sure you'll be glad when there's been a flood of questions.
Oh, great, yeah.
So
just give us the easy ones.
We'll get through one or two of them, sure. I'll start here. You showed the process mapping exercise, which looks very worthwhile. But after you do this, where do you actually start?
Yeah, it's probably, where do you start? It's really it's back to that bang for your buck, and start where you feel comfortable with. So you could look at your whole operations side, and it's really if you feel that your need is try to improve in your commercial aspect, or you might be going, we need to work on site diaries or voice to text, but it's really where you think you're going to get your most bang to buck. But it's also where you can put your most resources. So there's not a lot of point having a program to implement procurement if you're in a big procurement drive where you're trying to do a lot of new projects where these guys aren't going to have time. So anything you do, then you do need to factor in your resources and see where you're going to get your, I suppose, your operational gains, Vincent.
Okay, thanks, Declan. Quite a few of the questions around the tools aspect of things. What tools are out there for for people to start using?
Yeah. Honest answer is thousands of tools, and we've probably looked at most of them. The tools that you use, guys, when you're selecting your tools, selecting the tools is probably one of the last things you want to do. You might get a wee bit annoyed with me repeating myself on the system and the process. You need to map out your process. You need to map out your technology, but you need to also see what you're actually currently got. What packages have you got? You have the whole aspect of your security, what have you. But if you have a Microsoft package, there's in-house Microsoft AI tools that you could be using. The same with Google and Google Gemini. So you might want to be going for an in-house package, depending if that's your company's needs. Other than that, guys, there's a lot of low-code tools out there. NADN is a very popular one. And if suppose your company is big enough and you've got your own IT department, you could custom build your own AI solutions, which is probably the best answer, but you really need them things. But listen, Vincent, we can probably get a list together of different tools for different applications. We made them videos through AI and things like that. Some of it quirks through them, but we'll get a list across if you're happy enough. Get that across to you.
Yeah, certainly. That'd be really interesting to see. Thanks, Declan. One or two other ones around security. What about the security concerns? I suppose how you manage data, that type of thing. What's the best way to handle that?
I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, well, I suppose security is probably one of the things that people are thinking after the fact. So they wanted to do something first and then worry about is it secure second. So I suppose there's a lot of mainstream tools that are on the face of things highly secure, and that you're looking at your Microsoft and Googles and all the rest, and big brands have a lot of big promises. But the problem with that is it's knowing where your data sits. So is it encrypted? Is it being processed outside of your control? So for example, using like a public chat GPT, your data goes out into the public. So if you're using a Microsoft tool, is it stuck within the confines of your own private repository, or is it not? Is it stored in a server in America somewhere, which is quite applicable to Amazon going down there in um, East America there last week? But it affected people here in Ireland, and they probably didn't even know that their data was held elsewhere. So things like that about knowing where your data is, where it's encrypted and where it's stored, is probably a big factor when it comes to doing your ISO 27001s, your SOC 2 securities. Those things are very, very important, knowing where your data is and where it lies. So it's as much as it is fine to use big platforms, you also have to tell the big platforms to control the information. So security has to be planned at the beginning, not just at the end, to know what are your controls, what are your company policies, and how do we want people to access it. And most importantly, then, does the people in the company need to access things just broadly on the internet, or do they not? So it's small questions, but would have a big factor in the build of these kind of things.
Okay, thanks, Brendan. I think maybe draw to close there. There's more questions, but it's kind of trying to cover the broader ones. It's almost like we need to sort of re-engage after every couple of months just to see how things are moving because such is the pace of it all. But I think we'll draw to a close there, guys, if you're happy enough. And just to thank you again for your time because it's very interesting to see how it's all emerging. I know there's more questions and answers often, so it's very useful indeed.
No, thanks very much. Yeah, it's a massive uh, sector that's just coming on people. So yeah, it's probably 6 months' time. The equations could be different, and AI could be different. So it is a very emerging market. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I'll draw to a close there, guys. Thank you. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
That's
Okay.
great. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.